This story just came out of nowhere. I truly wasn't expecting any of this. I've had creepy people and weird things happen, but generally speaking, I'm aware of my surroundings most of the time, and don't really have many issues with this sort of thing. At the time this happened, I had just broken up with a boyfriend, moved back home for the summer until school was starting back up that fall. I got some full-time work at the gas station a mile from my parents' house, and goofed off with some of my hometown friends. That was my whole summer plan. Things were going quite well for the first month. I never really realized, though, just how many creeps come into the gas station, even when we were in a fairly nice suburb area. We of course had our regulars. One of them, a late 30s guy, started to intentionally wait in my longer line to be checked out by me, and various other small things like that. Looking back, I was a bit oblivious, a 21-year-old girl that, due to a previous abusive relationship, did not see myself as fairly attractive. I just thought all these guys were being friendly and nice. At first, he starts only coming to my register, then suddenly I would see him a few times a shift. I noticed he would always seem very polite, very well-mannered, never really giving off any skeevy vibes at all. He also had a couple of tween daughters that would be with him here and there, which made him seem even more harmless to me. Generally speaking, I worked early morning shifts, but flipped to later shifts as I have always been a night owl, getting maybe a couple hours of sleep before I had to go in for the early ones. When that happened, this creep was very upset with me that he wasn't able to come in and see me because he worked second shift. At this point, I started actively avoiding him, stalking the cooler if I saw him pull up, etc. He started to come in though when I would get off work. I would try to delay myself until he left. After this, I started getting notes and flowers on my car, until one night I'm walking out to my vehicle when he just suddenly popped up from behind it. I backed up and told him I was not interested at all. He assured me he would woo me and change my mind eventually. I switched schedules immediately after that, to working nights, days, mornings, just all over the place, so that my schedule was never predictable. Well, here I am working one afternoon, when up comes this batshit crazy woman with two younger girls with her. She starts asking her daughters if this is the girl, to which they replied yes. This maniac of a woman starts screaming and threatening me to stay away from her husband. I was so confused. Lady, I have no idea what you're talking about. Apparently, this psycho stalker man was married and had been telling his wife he had a hot young gas station attendant girlfriend that was moving in with him. The lady was nuts though. Her daughters looked super embarrassed, and she would just not leave the gas station. The store owner watching on video from the back called the cops, and the lady was eventually told to leave. At the time, I was dating, going out on a few dates. This one handsome fella started coming out to make sure when I left at night that the guy wasn't just going to pop out again. Now, normally at nights we had two people, but this night the other girl had called in. I have no idea how the creepy stalker man noticed, but he slipped in 10 minutes to close and just kept me company while I was doing nightly closing activities. He would make these cryptic comments about how no girl should be here alone at night like this. Why wouldn't I just give him a chance? He'd move me in, buy me a car, all kinds of creeperisms. I told him no thank you, and reminded him that his wife was not too keen on this either. The man immediately flew into a rage. He knocked over a whole display and started screaming at me. "What did you tell her?" All crazy man style. At this point, I was trapped inside of the gas station after close. I didn't dare to go out into the parking lot. Where I parked my car is off the side at the back of the store. It's dark, and obviously my stalker would follow me. Thank goodness my handsome fella happened to be coming home from work and noticed my car still at the gas station. He stopped by to check up on me. As soon as he came through that door, he could see my panic, and off took the creeper, storming away into the night. My handsome fella helped me pick up the display mess, sat with me until I stopped shaking and encouraged me to quit that job pronto. We called the police. It's a small town and he was easily found in his white Kia driving erratically. The officer followed up with me. He had a knife, rope, and duct tape on him. I live in the downtown area of a pretty major city. My street itself is relatively quiet, but I can't say so much for the surrounding neighborhoods. My city as a whole is infamous for drug activity and gun violence. We also have an ever-increasing number of homeless people, as our shelters have all almost closed down. I've generally never minded too much. Shit happens after all, and I didn't grow up in the best of circumstances either. I would never stereotype anyone based on their housing status. I was even involved with a homeless outreach program at the time. I left and never went back after this, and I've been hesitant to help anyone else ever since. It's 10 or so at night, and I'm headed to my partner's parents' house about 30 minutes away from my own. I get about 2 blocks away before remembering I needed gas. I'm not too fond of the idea of stopping at a gas station near my apartment at this time of night, but it was also clear to me that I was just not going to make it all the way out to the suburbs. I pull into one in a not-so-great part of the neighborhood. At least it was brightly lit though, and there were a lot of people walking by. I didn't get too worried about it. I got my gas real fast and walked into the store to grab a couple snacks. When I came out though, I noticed a tall man in a black coat and brown beanie started to casually come and chat with me. I couldn't quite tell if he was 25 or 40. His voice was also so low that I could barely even make out what he was saying. Something about being a music producer and working on a new project or something. He seemed friendly enough though, maybe a little bit erratic, so I let him ramble on for a few minutes before politely telling him I needed to get going. He told me his name was Mac. I unlocked my doors to get in, and this fucker got into the passenger seat with me. At this point, he was no longer just a friendly, chatty stranger. I was terrified. His demeanor hadn't changed at all, though. He was just sitting there acting like this was the most normal thing in the world. While I've had more than my fair share of encounters with creeps, nothing like this has ever happened to me before or since. I didn't scream. I didn't tell him to fuck off. I just sat there in fear of what he'd do to me if I resisted. "I need money for my son," he says. "He's in the hospital with a gunshot wound. His mom's waiting for me." I knew his story was bullshit right away, but I just wanted him to get out of my car. I gave him what little I had in my wallet and told him I really needed to get going. He had the nerve to turn to me and ask, "Hey, can you drive me to my friend's house? It's just up the road." What? Wasn't he supposed to be going to the hospital for his son? I tried to decline as politely as I possibly could. I told him my boyfriend was waiting for me. This opened a floodgate to a bunch of personal questions about my sex life, what my boyfriend and I are going to do when I get there, and extremely gross unsolicited comments about my body. I tried to block out his exact words to me, but it was incredibly gross. I was sure that this was it though. This was the end. I was trapped in my own car. The gas station parking lot was empty. I couldn't call the police, and even if I did, it would be a bad idea. I'll elaborate more on this later. I wish I could tell you I had some genius idea that helped me to get myself out of this, but I just didn't. I was panicked, frozen, and finally agreed to take him where he supposedly wanted to go. He had me drive around this random neighborhood, winding throughout dark side streets with a lot of seemingly abandoned houses for what seemed like forever. Finally, he had me stop in the parking lot of a beauty salon where his friend supposedly worked and was going to ride with her to the hospital. The parking lot was on a busy street and brightly lit. If he was going to kill me, he picked a very terrible place to try and do it. At this point, he became all over the place and started talking rapidly. Little details of his story kept changing constantly. He was clearly as high as a kite, and probably mentally unstable as well. This entire time he continued to act like we were longtime friends, and nothing about this situation was terrifying. He kept telling me he would give anything to trade places with my boyfriend. Ugh, gross. I kept gently reminding him I needed to be leaving. He kept telling me to stay because his friend would give me money to pay back for helping his son out. I couldn't help but wonder why she wouldn't have just given him the money directly if that was the case. I asked him what was taking his friend so long. He said he didn't know. Could he use my phone to call her? I wanted to say no. Maybe this was all an elaborate ploy to steal my phone and take off. I'm still thinking he could be a murderer or something, so I reluctantly handed the phone over. I should have just dialed the number for him. He took a long time while I was looking away. Then when I looked back, Jesus fuck. All of a sudden he was looking up porn and jacking off right in front of me. I wish I had a way to prove this, because I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true and the image is burned into my mind. I guess I should have seen that one coming. At this point, I just lost my cool and told him to get the fuck out. I was done with his shit. He started crying, wailing, all about how I'm just so hot, and he hated thinking about me with another man. I just turned him on so much. I was just staring at him baffled. He straightened up with a big smile on his face and said, I'm just fucking with you. I'm not a pussy. I wouldn't cry like that. Are you sure you don't want to take me to this location instead? Yeah, I'm fucking sure. I told him my boyfriend was already worried about me, as an hour had gone by at this point. Somehow that got his attention, and he got out and left. I drove to my partner's house shaking. He and I had just started dating at this point, and I didn't want him to think I was stupid or something, so I just nonchalantly told him I was dealing with a creep at the gas station, and it took me a while. Much later, when I told him the real story, he was appropriately horrified. I wish I could say that's where it stopped, but I started getting calls from all kinds of local numbers for the next couple of weeks. Only one voicemail was ever left. It was a lot of heavy breathing and very faint words I couldn't quite make out. I was creeped out, but I tried to dismiss it as paranoia. One time, I decided to actually answer and see who it was. Hey, it's me, Mac. I have your money. I felt like I needed to throw up. I don't need it. Leave me alone. I hung up as he started rambling about how beautiful I am and how he wanted to see me again. I blocked every strange number that's been calling me, and the calls finally stopped. I can't imagine how he got my number. My only thought is that when he opened up my phone to call his friend, he looked through my contacts where my own number is displayed at the top. You may wonder why I never called the police. My city is extremely well known for its police using excessive force, especially in the downtown area. People are regularly killed by the police here, and I personally witnessed people being beaten by cops for quite minor infractions. I don't intend to make any kind of political statement about the police at large or express any opinions of that sort here. I just mean to say I genuinely felt I might have been putting myself in further danger by calling these police, even after this was all over. Best case scenario, nothing would have been done and I would have been chewed out by the cops for being stupid enough to let this man into my car. Worst case, they just come, shoot him, and I have to live with that forever. I've regretted it since though, because a friend of mine later had an encounter with him as well on the complete opposite side of the city, and he gave her the same story about his son in the hospital. She ended up driving him around hostage aimlessly for an hour, before finally forcing him to get out. So, Mac, you're welcome, but let's never fucking meet again. Something bizarre happened to me last night, and I'd like to tell you about it if you'd like to listen. Background on me. I'm a 19-year-old male, living in a semi-large city in Ontario. It was around 11 at night, and I had just finished working out at the gym. I went to the grocery store to pick up some food for the next couple days. While there, I decided to get $120 cash back, some money that I owed my mom, and unbeknownst to me as I left the grocery store, money that I came very close to losing. Instead of going straight home, I decided to go for a little bit of a drive. I just got my car not too long ago, and the novelty of driving stick hadn't quite worn off yet. After about a half hour of driving around the city, I decided it was about time to start heading home. As I passed a gas station on the edge of town, but nearby to my house, I decided that now was as good a time as any to pull in and fuel up. When I first pulled in, I was the only one at the gas station. I was in an industrial/business part of town, at the edge, like I said, so there wasn't really much around. It was an empty lot that was without light beside the gas station. I noticed an SUV sitting there, about 100 to 200 meters away. I didn't think too much about it. I got out and started pumping the gas when I noticed a woman stumble around the corner and start walking straight toward me. As soon as I took notice of her, a small shiver ran down my spine. I instinctively locked my car. She walked toward me quickly, hands in her pockets and staring at me intensely the entire time. "Hey, I got in a fight with my boyfriend and he left me here. Can you give me a ride to my mom's house?" she said casually in her raspy smoker's voice. Another chill ran down my spine as she repeated the question, word for word almost, in the same raspy voice. I had to pump my gas first, sorry," I said to her, keeping my eyes on her the entire time. She walked around to the passenger side door, beside me. The fuel port was on the passenger side, and grabbed onto the door handle. "Can you unlock your car? I'm cold. I've been here a while." "I have to pay for the gas," I said, declining to cut the gas pumping short. I walked inside and talked to the guy behind the counter. I immediately told him that the girl outside was extremely suspicious and I did not know her. He just kinda shrugged. I could tell he wasn't too interested in getting involved, so I walked out. I figured maybe she was just high or something. I would find a way to just get her to leave me alone. As I walked out though, I saw that the SUV I had mentioned earlier had started up. I watched the driver maneuver himself so he could just drive out the exit. He stopped with the engine still running, only 100 meters away. "So can you open the door now? I'm really cold." So many alarm bells were going off in my head already. First, she just looked sorta sketchy. She was dressed well enough, but her face was really rough. She was pretty, covered in makeup, but it didn't hide a nasty-looking sore on her lip. Her eyes were just sunken and dull, bloodshot and dead-looking. Second, she didn't exactly seem like a damsel in distress at all. She didn't seem upset about her situation. In fact, she seemed almost emotionless. "No, that's not my problem. I need to go home," I said to her as firmly as I could. "Come on, you're driving me, right?" "I can't. I have to get home right now." I reached for my phone, which I realized I had left in the car. "I'm cold. I've been out here for hours," she shouted, getting pretty angry for someone who was asking a stranger a favor, I thought. I noticed her glance at the SUV. I started cluing in to what was going on and raised my voice a bit. "Hey, that's not my problem." I walked over to the driver's side door. She started yelling at me. "I said it's not my problem." I started to raise my voice. She started raising hers. We weren't exactly yelling, but it was getting a little heated. We went back and forth like that for a couple of minutes. My mind was racing. I thought about losing my car, getting stabbed or shot, getting robbed for the $120 I had in my wallet. I just lost it on her. "You get the fuck back. You don't know who I am. You get back right now." I guess I was in fight mode at this point. I was pretty ready to just fucking clock this bitch if she tried anything, as awful as that may sound. I think I might have caught her off guard or something, because she stumbled back right away. "Well, you better get out of here right now then," she said, walking backward. I instantly felt my balls tingle and climb up inside me after she said that. I was out of fight mode and into flight mode. I watched her until she got a decent distance away, noticing she was walking straight towards the SUV. I didn't watch for much longer. I hopped in my car and peeled out of there. I turned into a random subdivision, making sure I wasn't being followed. I called the cops and they said they'd send a car there, but there wasn't much they could do because there was no real crime committed. They said I did the right thing though, and she was most likely bait for some kind of robbery. I drove home as quickly as I could. Sorry if this is all a bit wordy, but I'm not sure the best way to tell this story yet. I'm a bit obsessed with the details of what happened. That's what's got me so disturbed. The emotionless way she spoke, the creepy way she looked, that SUV. Fuck, I'm surprised I didn't just burst into tears right there. I mean, I've been jumped before, but this just seems so crazy and predatory. The last thing she said to me still haunts me. You better get out of here right now then. Just laying it all out like that. Suddenly giving up the damsel in distress act. That has to be the worst part of this for me. Some quick backstory. I work at a gas station on a main route, so we see a lot of travelers passing through. Only one person works each shift, and it's a 24-hour store. We're a bit short-staffed, so I agreed to an overnight this time. I'm female. I work in a state that always had self-serve gas stations. So this night, this guy comes in. I asked him if he needed any help, and he said no. He started getting gas at the pump, but told me he needed to use the bathroom. I go back to work on whatever invoices we got yesterday. The guy uses the bathroom and then goes back outside. Well, about 5 to 7 minutes later, he comes back in and tells me he's a bit confused about the pump. He directly says to me, "You might have to come outside to help me." Customers don't often say this. They usually just complain that it's not working, so I already started getting a weird feeling about this guy. I shook it off though because he looked like a nerd and I didn't really feel afraid of him. I looked at the register to see what error it came up for with his pump, only to see that there was no error displayed. The register didn't even say it was in use. Even if someone tries to pay and nothing's wrong with their payment, it will at least say payment or loyalty timed out, but it literally had no sign of him even trying to use it before coming to ask me for help. I asked him if he just wanted to pay inside. He agreed and got his wallet out of his car, then paid $10. I gave him his receipt when he said to me, "Can you please help me? I don't understand the machine." I told him we weren't really allowed to leave the store during overnight shifts, as it was just me here and it wasn't safe to go outside. I don't know why I told him I was alone, but he just didn't seem threatening. He proceeded to tell me, "I don't understand what it's asking me. I need help. I'm not scary." I told him again I couldn't go outside because it was store policy for the overnight shift. "I know you're not scary, I just can't go outside." I'd have to tell a little old lady asking for help at this hour the same thing. That much is true. We can't even take out the trash during overnights. He started to walk away from the register counter now, but stopped at the door and asked me one last time to come outside with him. I was pretty annoyed at this point. I'd said no twice now. I was clearly not going, so stop asking me. I finally said to him in a super annoyed tone, "Okay, all you need to do is 1. Pick up the nozzle, 2. Select the fuel grade button, and 3. Put it into your tank and squeeze the handle. I'm not going outside." He finally went back to his car. The register told me he had no trouble pumping the gas. Also, his plates seem like they're from the state I work in. This kind of thing wouldn't make me suspicious usually, but the fact that he originally opted for me to go outside instead of bringing the money inside is weird, along with how he didn't bother to use the pump before he came inside to ask for help, claiming it wasn't working, and him not taking no for an answer. It was just a really creepy situation.